Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, along with my co-host Steve Balestrieri. Good evening, Mr. Balestrieri. How are you tonight? Ready to talk some football?
I'm always ready to talk some football with you, my friend. So
Okay, we got plenty
just
of it.
just another day in paradise, isn't it?
Isn't it? Oh yeah, you bet. Well, hey, I'm planning to visit Florida Atlantic University, and they talk about winning in paradise. Well, we'll make sure that we're able to play in paradise when COVID-19 is going around. But,
I know.
So, why don't we make a little mini announcement here, if I may, okay? Probably after football season, or maybe before, most likely after, you and I are going to be going on one of our broadcasts on the network called The Real and the Rare. This is a broadcast show here, which is not going to limit ourselves to sports. So we're going to come up with some different ideas of what to talk about. We'll probably focus on your veteran stuff or whatever comes to mind. And we'll try to let our creative minds and our experience go out there and do that. So how you looking forward to that?
It should be a lot of fun. And like you said, it will open up a lot of avenues for us to go out, maybe sometimes in the sports world, but probably it'll be a lot outside as well.
Well, that was probably the major reason why I designed the show with the intent where we'll do some sports, but probably outside as well. So I want to keep it a platform which is really, really wide open. And I know we're going to be working on experimenting with some other alternatives to get our broadcast out to more and more people, and we'll make those announcements as time goes on. So, but meanwhile, why don't we focus on football tonight, Steve?
Hey, let's talk some football.
Let's do it. Wednesday night football. No, I'm not Howard Cosell, and I have the levels of frustration thinking I can come up with it. Who cares? Whatever. All right. Not the Diet Mountain Dew kicking in. I've been easy on that stuff tonight. But I will tell you right now, the NFL is planning on just 20% capacity at the next Super Bowl. I think it's, 55, I think it is?
Mm-hmm.
20% Super Bowl? Oh, my goodness. As if the press boxes are reduced to 66%. We're talking about that 20% capacity. I wonder if I can kick around the Canadian Football League where they don't have any capacity. We got our neighbors to the north, the Canadian Football League, looking like the NFL this year at the Super Bowl, the Grey Cup. Hello.
That's terrible, isn't it? I mean, I'd rather them not allow anybody in the stadium for the Super Bowl and just maybe CGI it so it looks like it's full of people.
How do you determine the 20% of the people, Steve, that would actually watch the Super Bowl? I mean, do you have a pool of tickets, or how do you do it? I mean, I'm waiting for Einstein to come up to the forefront and let me know, because I must have took a dumb pill here. 20%, can you imagine what the ticket will go for a 20% capacity at the Super Bowl in Tampa?
It's going to be out of my price range, I can tell you that.
Oh, come on, really?
Yeah, really,
Your price
really.
range is hanging out over in southwestern Florida, hanging out with your other half and just enjoying paradise, my friend. Your first
I know.
in the Sunshine State. Come on, really?
Yeah, but when the Super Bowl was in Dallas a couple of years ago, my brother-in-law lives. He used to live maybe 10 minutes away from the stadium. He was telling me that the ticket, because you had to buy a ticket to park at the stadium, $3,000 to park your car there.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, be glad when you're a member of the media, you just take advantage of the shuttle. So
Yeah, take the shuttle over, because I'm not parking at Jerry's place for $3,000.
That's okay. I'll keep my money. I know what I can do with $3,000. I can invest toward a shower tub conversion is what I can do, or the sunroom I'm about to get here in Deerfield Beach at some point down the road. But I'm not spending it on some stupid parking. In fact, I was telling my wife the other day when we did No Limits and we were talking about baseball ballparks. You know what? That fan thing doesn't work for me either. I'm working the game, Steve, or I'm not going.
Yeah.
We spent money this past spring training where there were only two stadiums left in the Cactus League. We hadn't seen, so we ended up paying those tickets just to get the last two out of the way. And the last sporting event that my wife and I saw was the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Milwaukee Brewers over at Camelback Ranch. And just so happens, congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers, by the way, for winning the World Series against the Tampa Bay Rays. No, we're not talking this about baseball, but the last sporting event I went to before I broke the drought over at FAU Stadium, which leads us to all the other stuff since we're on the gridiron anyway. So congratulations to the Dodgers. Well done. They beat the Tampa Bay Rays up by 75, but I feel like I have a strong bond with the Dodgers since I've worked with them for many years. So I was glad to see the Dodgers pull it out. So.
Yeah, I was kind of rooting for them this year since Mookie Betts went to them, and
Oh, that's true.
yeah, and he had a big postseason, and then last night he scored the winning run, then the insurance run, a home run later on in the game. Glad to see it for Mookie, but sorry for the folks here in Florida because I know everyone was hoping for another Tampa Bay championship. So.
You know, my wife and I saw Mookie Betts over at Camelback Ranch. He was doing a press conference. She got a nice photo of him. And, you know, and David Price didn't get the ring. He decided to opt out. Well, guess he doesn't need that piece of jewelry, but I don't think he's particularly worried about it. He did what he felt was in the best interest of his family. More power to him. You can never do that, especially with health things being what they are. But back to the 20% at a Super Bowl. Can you imagine?
Oh, that's awful. I can't wait for this stuff to get fixed so we can get back to a semi-normal life around here. I mean, you see some of these football games and college games where, you know, it looks like there's a blowout in the first quarter because there's nobody in the stands or there's just a sprinkling of people in there, and it's sad. It really is.
Canadian Football League turnouts in the NFL. I don't know. And yet the Canadian Football League didn't even play this year because they don't have the money to do it. Then again, nobody does, so it doesn't make any difference anyways. All right, well, let's talk about the Green Bay Packers. They're among some of the teams interested in Houston Texans wide receiver Will Fuller. I know the Green Bay Packers are heavily criticized for not drafting a wide receiver during the offseason, let alone picking up a marquee name. The one marquee name that they did pick up, Devin Funchess, decided not to play this year. So let's talk about Will Fuller. Do you think he'd be a pretty good fit up in Green Bay?
Absolutely. I think he'd be a great fit up there. You know, the big knock on him is he hasn't been able to stay healthy in his career, but when he's on the field, and you can see it with the Houston Texans, when he's with them on the field, they're a very different offense. They're incredibly hard to stop because I think he's that added dimension. And I think with Aaron Rodgers up there in Green Bay, he'll be a great addition for them.
Yeah, I think the more weapons you have with Aaron, the better. I mean, Devontae Adams, fine target. And they have some other young receivers, but I think Will Fuller would, you know, who knows what's going to happen with the Houston Texans. We do know that they closed facility due to a positive COVID-19 test. And it just so happens the Packers played them this past Sunday. I'm not going to get into that score because it's not relevant to this broadcast tonight. But boy, the Houston Texans are in the news all year for all the wrong reasons. First of all, though, O'Brien and the team being depleted talent-wise, and now COVID-19, my goodness, these are rough out in H-Town.
I know it, and that was one of the teams that I was looking at this year that I was wondering if they were going to make that next step. Well, they made the next step, but it wasn't up. It was backwards. And it's going to be – they're basically starting from scratch next year. I mean, They're cleaning house, and Dallas Cowboys look like they're cleaning house too.
Oh, yeah. Wait till we get to their football game later in the broadcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that don't look very good. Now, right now, they need to clean their facilities with COVID-19, let alone clean the house.
I know.
You have a coach, Romeo Cornell, in his 70s. It could be a high risk if he gets it. Oh, you don't want to even, I don't know you want to talk about that, but you know, nowadays these NFL teams, they definitely know how to go out there and make sure that they get this stuff cleaned up. And I love, as you well know, I make sure you get all the releases that you need, including the COVID-19 results, to see if there are any games.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't know. Anything else you want to say about the Texans, Mr. Balestrieri?
I think that Will Fuller's on the block, and I keep hearing rumors that they're going to trade J.J. Watt. I think it's really premature for that kind of talk. But if they did, I think people there would revolt because he's such a popular guy in the community there. I'm wondering if a lot of that is just, clickbait from Twitter, but
Right.
I don't know. Sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire. So we'll have to see how it plays out.
Well, for whatever it's worth, even though I've adopted Wisconsin as like a home state of mine since I have family through marriage there, and I've been there a long time, like got married there too. But if there's a good place for J.J. Watt to go, why not send him to Green Bay and let him be with the Packers? Oh, and you imagine that you would have to take Lambeau Field, and you could put 200,000 people in there if he ever goes out there to play when
Yeah. Hopefully it won't be 20%.
Yeah, right. That would be it. So, I would love to see laugh about all you want. I'd love to see J.J. Watt finish his career up in Wisconsin, though.
Well, that would be kind of neat especially for him,
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting, but I think if they did that, the fans in Houston would. I think they'd revolt.
Yeah, you think? No, I know they would. The biggest understatement on the planet is sitting across from me, okay, in Southwest Florida. More, yeah, but you're definitely on par there. All right, well, I know you've been thinking about me over the weekend, and I know you definitely were thinking about me, and you know exactly where I'm going with this one. The Lions and the Falcons are not going to get in the score yet, but Todd Gurley had clear instructions not to score, and he says his momentum took him in the end zone, and he did score.
I was watching the game, and it was kind of nip and tuck, and then the Lions were ahead, and then Matt Ryan started driving them down the field, and it didn't look good for the Lions. And then I was like, boy, if they make this first down, then the game's over.
Right.
And then Gurley breaks through, and I was like, oh, he's going to lay down. That's it. Well, then his momentum, I was like, he's going really close to the end zone.
Right.
And then once he scored, I was like, I know you must have been jumping up and down for joy, because a minute is a lot of time for Mr. Stafford to go back down the field, isn't it?
Well, I was at Duffy, so I wasn't jumping up and down for joy, but when my eyes started to know that Matthew had 64 seconds left to go, I'm thinking, I would love to be at a Zoom conference with Matt Patricia if they pulled this thing off. If the Lions finally got lucky for a change, instead of finding ways to lose it, they accidentally found a way to win a game that they weren't supposed to win with all the double-digit games that they went out there.
The Falcons did it again. They somehow managed to pull defeat out of the jaws of victory. I mean, they did it with the Cowboys earlier this year, and they did it again. I mean, if Gurley lays down at the 2-yard line, it's pretty much game over. And
it is game over.
Yeah.
They had no timeouts left, Steve. They didn't have any timeouts left. The only ones that probably benefited from that touchdown were the people that had them in fantasy football. And I know you don't follow it, but, for a touchdown, you do get 6 points. One of these days, what I'm going to do with you? I'm going to bring you on a broadcast with a fantasy football guy anyways. How's that sound?
Yeah. Well, see, I'm not a fantasy football guy.
It doesn't matter. It's all education, pal. It don't matter. You don't have to be fantasy. We're not asking you for your fantasy picks. We're going to enlighten you a little bit here. That's all.
Yeah, I don't have the slightest idea how any of that works, because it's just something I've never been interested in. But, because I get Twitter messages all the time. Who should I start this week? I have no idea.
Well, I didn't get into fantasy football until I married into a family that liked it, and all of a sudden they needed a sixth person when my mother-in-law died, and I was it. Actually, I got in there one year when she was alive, and then they created an eighth team called Misfits, where they had the worst players on the planet, so everybody got an easy win. When she passed away, then I was a sixth wheel, and then I had to stay, otherwise I'd never hear the end of it from the in-laws. So. But I took.
You don't want to get the in-laws mad at you.
Oh no, I know. And this year I got out of it, but I have a feeling I got it out of my system anyhow. So I probably might be convinced or persuaded to rejoin it. I don't know. What we're gonna do. We're going to have some fun. One of these times, we're just going to have you on a broadcast because we're going to start doing some creative things with the Wednesday broadcast, bringing on different types of guests with you. We're not asking you to give any fantasy predictions, but we might just give you a little education how it works, just for the sake of entertainment and only entertainment. That's all it will be. You will never be asked to pick any. Is that fair enough?
Fair enough.
Entertainment. That's all it's going to be. So, but meanwhile, Todd Gurley may have made some fantasy people happy, but the reality, people, he got them angry both in Atlanta, but not so. But they were happy in Detroit.
Oh, they must have been ecstatic in Detroit, and now Matt Patricia's 3-3. So even though they probably shouldn't have won that game, the heat's off of him a little bit for a week or so.
Well, the stay of execution for you people that are in the crime business or the capital punishment.
Yeah. The governor gave him a stay of execution. So.
Yeah, well, we'll see if they can execute this week against the Indianapolis Colts again. We're going to talk about shortly. All right. Well, we'll talk about anything that you want to say about Todd Gurley at all.
It must have been. I felt like watching him on the bench. Those Southwest Air commercials. Want to get away? He looked like he wanted to get away.
Well, that's a good analogy. I love that analogy. That was good. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to quit with that analogy. That was really good. Okay. Because I'll tell you what, he wasn't using the O.J. Simpson commercial where he's running through an airport.
He was just, like I said, at first he's just trying to get through the line, make the first down, and I get that. He's running hard. Once he broke through the line, he should have been looking to slide and give himself up, and that's it. Ball game, you win the game. And his instincts kept kicking in, and then when he finally realized that it was too late, and he opened that door just a crack, and as you know, with Matt Stafford, sometimes that's all he needs. So, I can imagine Mr. Blank sitting up. Actually, at the end of the game, he was down on the field again, like he was in the Super Bowl. He must have been grinding his teeth. Probably a trip to the orthodontist this week.
For as much as we like to kid around with Matt Patricia on this show about the bend but not break, I'm glad he broke in the sense where they got to the end zone. He was actually happy about it for a change. Yeah. We have come down on Matt, and justifiably so we have. And we don't apologize for nothing, do we?
No. It's more the criticism we've leveled at him is all warranted. And he knows that. He knows it more than anybody. So.
But again, he can grimace behind his big beard that he has. He doesn't have one like us, but that's okay. We'll see what the beard looks like later. Anyways, let's go on to a guy you're all too familiar with. Tom Brady and Antonio Brown have been reunited, and they're doing it right up the road on I-75 in Tampa. What are your thoughts about that?
Antonio Brown is like the big tease, He has all the talent in the world, and we all know that. We've seen it. You watch him on the football field, and his talent is undeniable. But as great a talent as he is, he's that great a pain in the butt as well off the field. I know that Bruce Arians had earlier this year said that he wasn't interested in him, and I think he's going to regret that decision of bringing him on board. I think Brown will be, I expect him to go out in a very short amount of time and light it up for a little while. And the more he lights it up, the more he's going to come off the rails. That's just been his MO. I think it was a mistake for them. I get it, and Tom Brady likes him. He was actually staying with Brady at his house for a short while last year when Brown was with the Patriots. So, and Brady is looking at the guy on the field. But I did see his press conference today where he talked about, everybody fits in and all this. And I just don't know with this guy. I know Patriots fans wanted to bring him back, and I was like, I don't want this guy. Yeah. He's too much of he's a loose cannon. He's off the rails, and
more trouble than he's worth.
Yeah, there's no denying his talent. on the field, he's an incredibly talented football player, but he's just. I think he actually needs some help. So.
Well, we all know that Tom Brady engineered that move. I don't care what Bruce Arians has said. He's definitely a great talker, with all due respect. Tom Brady engineered that whole thing from the beginning, and he executed it.
Oh yeah.
If anybody can't read between that, then shame on them. Then they need to go ahead and then they need to take a pill for dumb D-U-M-B-M-E-N-T-I-A. I made that one up, but no,
Right.
I'm $2,500 to trademark it all the way around. Okay, because maybe somebody in the medical profession, but Tom Brady engineered. I actually think he's going to be Antonio Brown to Tampa. But Tom Brady is a good move, and the only way is that way because of Tom Brady and only Tom Brady. And if you give that offense more weapons with all the different targets you have, and I know that Tampa's injury corps have affected the receiving, I think it's a good move for Tampa. And Tom Brady.
Well, I think in the short term, I absolutely believe it's a good move. I mean, like I said, I expect in very short order he'll start lighting it up, especially with all the other weapons they have. I mean, you know, who are you going to double up? I mean, Mike Evans, him, Rob Gronkowski. I mean, they have Godwin. They have so many really good weapons on that offense. So he's going to light it up. There's no doubt about it. But I think you're just prolonging the inevitable because I think he's going to come off the rails again.
Oh, yeah.
It might be 2 weeks from now. It might be 2 months from now.
Well, if they got him cheap, it doesn't make any difference anyways. They only got, 7, 8 weeks of him. So he knows full well that if he doesn't straighten up, how many more opportunities you have. You know how many Russell Wilsons and Tom Brady have going to bat for you just to get this guy in the building. You know, even Morris ran out of lives, Steve, at 9. We didn't get lives. At 9 lives.
Yeah, well, I think Morris is kind of a tame, comparison to Antonio Brown. He's more like the Tasmanian devil. So.
Well, another statement. All right, well, I'll tell you what, we'll talk about somebody who's got a headache of a different kind. Unfortunately, I'm not really joking around about this. This is just a bad one here. Andy Dalton's concussion, and his teammates did not even retaliate against him, and Mike McCarthy's not happy. I don't blame Mike McCarthy for being upset. How on earth? I understand they're not happy that Dak Prescott's in there, but really? You mean to tell me there couldn't have been any retaliation and shoving these guys around after a cheap shot like that? That, to me, is a bunch of nonsense, Steve.
Yeah, and it was awful. I mean, when I saw that play, Dalton was well into the slide, and Bostic just went head on, and he basically knocked him out. I thought, I was surprised that Dalton even got up after that, and then not seeing anybody. And I thought back a couple of years ago, there was that incident with Kiko Alonso and Joe Flacco. And if you remember, John Harbaugh went right after Kiko Alonso on the field. And some of the Ravens players did as well. That's the kind of thing, the guy's your quarterback. You have to protect him. And that was Bostic's hit was a really cheap shot. Yeah. And you hate seeing that because, you could have killed that guy. As it is now, he'll miss this week. He probably with a concussion. I doubt he'll play. So, unless
there's a miracle in store by the end of the week, now the Cowboys are relegated to 2 quarterbacks that nobody knows anything about. So, but I don't care to get into them. That's not why I brought this up. The point is I think the Cowboys are way out of line. Not so much Mike McCarthy. I respect Mike McCarthy. I think he's a fine coach. And if anybody in Dallas is getting on Mike McCarthy's case, save it. Just shut up, okay? Mike McCarthy's a proven coach in this league, and I think he'll ultimately do a good job in Dallas. They got to show a little patience. Got to give the guy a little patience. He never had any OTAs to work with. Didn't have any preseason games. And now, sorting all these injuries. But back to Dalton. I think that – when you have a quarterback who's your leader, I don't care if it's Dak or Andy, you go out there and it's all for one or, you're a team, okay, no matter who's your signal caller. And that's where I think Jerry Jones should exercise his will, and they need to make sure that this doesn't ever happen again. Andy Dalton's a good quarterback. There was a time when I actually thought he would have been a good ideal matchup in New England, but it didn't come to fruition. So I think the Cowboys need to rethink themselves. They need to rally around their signal caller, and that's what made them as bad as they did. So
Yeah, it was surprising because, I mean, it was such an obvious cheap shot.
yeah,
And, I was watching their players' reaction and they were just kind of lottie-darring around. And I was like, I can't believe that they're not rushing to, their guys' defense there. I mean, I, I don't know what that tells you about that team, but it wasn't a very good look.
no, that's true. I agree. That's exactly what it tells you about the team. It was not a good look. All right, so let's look at some football games past last week, and then we're going to go on to this week. And you knew I was going to lead off with this one: Detroit Lions 23, and Falcons 22. You know I'm going to lead off with the Lions every week. And yes, the Lions got a gift, okay, and they didn't have to wait till Christmas to get it. And the Atlanta Falcons were in a giving mode. Well, what's there to say? I actually did predict the Lions to win the game, but I didn't expect it would be this way.
No, I don't think anyone saw that. I wanted to ask you a question because I was watching part of the game as well.
Sure.
On the Lions' first touchdown drive, Stafford got flushed out of the pocket and he started to scramble.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was a runner. He had gained a couple of yards. Then he got lit up and they called roughing the quarterback. I thought that was kind of ticky-tack because he was beyond the line of scrimmage, and at that point, he was a runner. I wanted to get did you think that was a penalty?
No. I mean, Steve, come on. We're really, whether I have a vested rooting interest for the Lions or not, we are taught to be objective, Steve. We really are.
I didn't know if I was being overly critical of the officials as I tend to be. But at the same time, I was like, I didn't think that was a penalty.
They were fortunate. If this team has any luck at all, Steve, by now it's no luck. But in Atlanta, they had some luck.
Yeah.
But no, I think that was probably a questionable call that could have gone either way. But, when you are a quarterback and you are out of the pocket and it appears you're a runner, but again, you know full well that they're going to go out there and protect the quarterback. And after all, these guys normally bring fans in the stands, although nobody bringing them in these days. But I think that the Lions got the benefit of the doubt on that particular play.
And then Todd Gurley helped him out at the end.
What's that?
And then Todd Gurley helped him out in the end. But my man Hawkinson caught the winning touchdown pass. I told you at the beginning of the season, I really like that kid. And I think he's going to be really, really good. And, that I was happy to see that he's caught that winning touchdown.
Well, he got a 1-yarder in Jacksonville when I was there. And I told you I was pretty neutral there. I was very quiet and subdued. You can imagine that with me knowing the lines of the opponent. But again, I believe that when we're professionals, how many times have you heard it in the box, Steve? You're not allowed to cheer. You got to keep quiet or they'll run you out the door. Well, you hear that after 200 million times. That's what you're told to do. And, again, being objectively speaking, the Lions got a break. But then again, throughout the years, how many haven't they had? The Calvin Johnson. They have more rules named after them for all the wrong reasons. The Calvin Johnson rule, and then they got lucky. Dallas Cowboys got lucky at their expense in the playoffs, and they beat them in a playoff game. So it's okay to see something go right for them for a change. We'll see how long that continues. But the Lions did pull out a win in Atlanta, and they are 3-3 nevertheless, and that's what they had to do. When we thought that Matt Patricia could lose his job if they had gone 0-4. Meanwhile, they're 3-3, so it'll be interesting. But it was good to see him get a win against Atlanta, and the Atlanta Falcons are finding ways to lose games. That's how, when you're a bad franchise, you find ways to lose, and the Falcons did that. Well, let's talk about the Battle of the Unbeatens. You've got the Pittsburgh Steelers 27-24 of the Titans. It took your man Gostkowski to miss a field goal there, didn't it?
That was a great football game, wasn't it? And the first quarter, it looked like the Steelers were going to just blow them out of the building. Their offense was just clicking. The Titans really couldn't do anything. And then, that game, little by little, the Titans clawed their way back in. And as they were going down the field at the end of the game, I actually thought they were going to score a touchdown and win the game. I really did. You had that feeling that the momentum had totally flipped. Then the Steelers made a really nice stop, forced the field goal, but it was still a very makeable field goal. And Gostkowski just shanked it. And, the Steelers got away with a little bit of one, but that was a really good football game. I thought that, the Steelers defense early in that game was the difference. I thought they were just smothering everything Tennessee was going to do. But as we've seen in the past with Tennessee, the longer the game goes on, those Derrick Henry runs that go for 1 yard and 0 yards in the first quarter, they start going to 3 and 4, and then they start going more than that in that fourth quarter. And like I said, you had that feeling Tennessee was going to win that game.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, the game lived up to its billing. That's all I can tell you.
It was a great game.
It was. So, again, my mind was zoned in on the Lions game, but I knew the Steelers and the Titans were doghouse.
I watched that one because I had the feeling that it was going to be a really, good one to check out. So I watched that one in its entirety. And again, like in the first quarter, I was like, boy, it doesn't look like it's going to be a really good game. It looked like the Steelers were going to blow them out. But they clawed their way back in, and they made a couple of big plays, turned into a great football game. And now the Steelers are, still undefeated.
So my question to you is, did you do the homework I asked you to do and look up Gus the Kicking Mule?
Yeah, when I looked it up, I've seen that movie.
Oh, have you really?
Yeah. I thought it was named something else when I saw it because it came out in the 70s. And when I looked it up, I was like, I've seen this. And I was laughing because I remember he kicked the ball facing backwards through the. Yeah, he didn't use his front feet. He used his back leg kicking it backwards.
Yeah,
and I've seen it. Yeah, and it was actually. It was one of those, I think it was early or mid-70s Disney.
It was,
yeah. And I remember watching that when I was in high school. So.
Well, there you go. Well, at least the man did his homework. Good stuff. Proud of you, SB. Good stuff. Now, when we get to the games this week, you're the one who's going to read off the records of these. So you have the standings ready, all right? And I'll reel off the games. So I'll let you do the statistician while we get to that shortly. But let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys Washington football team. I know I wanted to say Redskins, but I restrained myself for the football.
I know. I still catch myself doing that as well as the Oakland Raiders. So I think people can forgive us for that. Look, the Steelers, the Washington football team.
Yeah.
I thought they played a really strong football game there. Now they're 2-5. Kyle Allen wasn't great, but he was good. I thought he was. He kind of, took what was there. I think he threw for just under 200 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. And Antonio Gibson had a really big game, 128 yards on 20 carries. Terry McLaurin had 7 catches for 99 yards and a score. And Dallas just looks absolutely well. Of course, after Andy Dalton went down, it's tough, but at the same time, they didn't look good before that.
Now, well, I think Washington has to be somewhat uplifted that Ron Rivera had his final cancer treatment and he's feeling much better. So I think Washington will get it figured out at some point or another. Give Ron Rivera a little bit of time and he'll be fine. He's been a winner wherever he's gone. I think actually Dan Snyder made the right hire with him. So, but Dallas is an outright mess. We talked about it with the situation with Andy Dalton getting hurt, Dak Prescott. I still think the biggest mistake the Cowboys made was that they didn't reward Dak for a larger contract. The question is whether they believe in him, and that'll be something we talk about down the line. So, but more power to Washington. The game you're all too familiar with, like everybody, is a Tampa Bay Bucks 45 the Raiders 20. Can you imagine Brady throwing for over 500 yards and 5 touchdowns? Is this Back to the Future, Back to the Past? I don't know how you script this one out, Steve.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know if you've seen any of his tweets for the past 10 years. Max Kellerman, from one of those Fox Sports shows, has been on this anti-Brady kick for, I want to say, at least 10 years. And every year he claims he's going over the cliff. He's going over the cliff.
He's after ESPN. He's the reason he has a show on ESPN from 2 to 4, and I know that that's my heavy social media time to avoid this guy.
Yeah. I don't watch his show. I think he's a blowhard. Him and Rob Parker are the two worst guys on any show. But Kellerman actually came out after the fact and said that, Brady isn't going over the cliff. Well, yeah, we could have told you that for the past 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
But, Brady, he had a really good game. He threw 4 touchdowns. He also ran for 1. So, and threw another one to Rob Gronkowski. Gronkowski's heating up a little bit. He's, getting more targets in there, and I think that's just going to help that offense. And they're still missing some people, which is pretty amazing. So, and they seem to be really clicking. I think Tampa Bay is got to be one of those teams where, if you're looking on the schedule, that's not a team you want to play right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. By the way, I'm not going to lean on Rob Parker too much, and I'll tell you why. He's actually a pretty good friend of mine. Back in Detroit. You can, hey, well, whatever you do, you do. Rob and I go back a lot of years from our days when we worked together in Detroit. So, but the one thing I loved about Rob, though, was when he used to get on Rod Marinelli all the time, and I applauded Rob. I said, God love you, Rob. Give it to Rod hard.
Well, he's another one that, he's been saying Brady's, he's been saying for the past 10 years that, Brady isn't even a great quarterback. He was carried along for the ride by the Patriots defense in their kicking game. Wow. And then after the first game of the year, he was like, oh, you think Sean Payton realizes his mistake? So,
you know what? We got to remember, Tom Brady going to Tampa had to prove a lot of people wrong. He really did. Let's not kid ourselves. Bill Belichick is used to getting rid of guys before they're ready to go. Well, Tom Brady turned the tables on him and said, I'm getting rid of you before instead. So, and Bill Belichick right now, and we'll get to it in just a moment, probably wishes that maybe I should have treated Brady a little bit better because, Brady's winning and Belichick's got some big problems out in New England. In fact, we'll transition over to that now because the 49ers blew up New England 33-6. I think the largest loss by the
at home.
And I'll tell you what, Jimmy Garoppolo gave him a licking, and the Patriots looked pretty bad under Cam Newton, who even got benched in that football game.
Yeah, I thought they were actually going to bench him earlier. I thought they actually should have benched him earlier in that football game. I mean, when you're looking at it, he's just struggling really, really badly. He's holding on to the ball too long. He's making really poor decisions with it. His footwork is a mess. It was something they worked with him on this summer. And the first 2 games, his footwork looked really good. And now he's kind of reverting back. He's throwing flat-footed. He's throwing, with his both of his feet perpendicular to the line of scrimmage.
Right.
It's not good. And I think a lot of that has to do with the coaching. The first 2 weeks of the season, especially the first week, we saw a lot of that RPO action from Josh McDaniels. We were seeing a lot of the things that Cam Newton did in Carolina.
Right.
The past few weeks, we're seeing more and more of the Patriots-style offense that they ran with Tom Brady for the past 20 years.
Right.
And that's not really stuff that is suitable for Cam Newton's skill set. And that's a big reason why I think he's struggling. I think they need to, incorporate more what he did with Carolina. And that's something Bill Belichick has always done. He's always done that. He always says, don't tell me what a guy can't do. Tell me what he can do. And they always try to put a player in the best position to succeed. And I don't feel like they're doing that with Newton.
Well, Newton right now needs to go back to being a mobile quarterback because that's what he's really known for anyhow. He's a big player who's powerful, but he needs to run the football because right now I'm not so sure New England knows where their offense is going to get. And at the rate he's going, Jarrett Stidham may end up being the quarterback at the end of the year if this trend continues. So Cam needs to run, and he needs to be more multidimensional or his stay in New England is going to be really short-lived for sure. So.
Right. And, like what they're doing right now is those quick hitters that Brady, that was the one thing that, watching him for so many years. You see these guys, and New England was like that. That's their style. It's the short, quick passing game built on timing, 3-step drop, 2 seconds, the ball's already out. And as guys are making their break, the ball's already in the air. So when they turn to look back, the ball's already halfway to them.
Right.
And that's not Cam's game. And you can see it now because everyone keeps saying, well, nobody's open. Well, they're open if the ball was being thrown when it's supposed to. But then he's staring down guys, and he's throwing it too late, and it's allowing the defensive backs. You stare down, a receiver now in today's NFL, and you're going to see what we're seeing in New England right now. So they have a lot of work to do, and defensively, they just got blown off the ball. That wasn't a good matchup. San Francisco style offense. New England has built themselves a smaller type of defense that's made to challenge teams like the Kansas City Chiefs. And that big physical team with a fullback and running the football like San Francisco does, they just chewed them up. They couldn't set the edge. It was ugly from the get-go. And Jimmy Garoppolo didn't have statistically a great game, but he did everything he needed to do. He threw 2 picks, didn't throw a touchdown. But at the same time, he did everything he needed to do. And, most of the passes in the first half were those short, at or behind the line of scrimmage, and they were eating them up with those. And then as the game went on, they were getting more and more confident because of that running game. And they started pushing the ball down the field, and they were successful doing that too.
Having covered the team, Steve, as long as you've covered this team, we saw the San Antonio Spurs consecutive playoff drought come to an end, and all great teams end up having to rebuild it at some point or another. Was it sad for you to see this happen, or do you think it was expected and perhaps long overdue?
Well, I think most of us who are logical about things saw that this was going to be a rebuilding year. And, we expected them to struggle because, let's face it, I don't think their wide receivers are as bad as they're showing up right now. Okay. But we all know that that's not a stellar group, right. So we knew they were going to struggle. I said all year long, coming into the season, I said every week is going to be a rock fight now. There's not going to be any coasting victories. Every week is going to come right down to the wire if you're in these games, and they're going to be that way. Excuse me. But no, we fully expected that. We didn't expect him to struggle this badly. I thought Newton, they would have tailored the offense to what he does since they've hitched their wagons to him. And I'm kind of surprised that the coaching staff are not doing that. So I think if they had done that, they would be a lot more competitive than they are right now.
That's fair. Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you, the team that likes to give you and I migraines is the one that resides in Arizona. And boy, they did it again. How about that? Arizona 37-34 over Seattle. Russell Wilson gets his first loss, and they do it in overtime. Did you see a Cardinals win here?
No, I didn't. I thought it would be a high-scoring game, as we talked about that last week, I believe. I thought it was going to be a high-scoring game, but I thought Seattle was going to pull it out, but ended up going to overtime. And sorry to say, I fell asleep before the toss and overtime. I was tired by that point on Sunday. I was watching the game. I fell asleep. I woke up. It was already over, so I missed it. I had to rewatch that on television, the replay. But
Right.
yeah, it was a good game. And again, that Cardinals team, you never know which one is going to show up, but obviously the good one did on Sunday night.
Yeah, I think if anybody's looking for a dark horse in the playoffs, you almost have to put the Cardinals in the conversation. And don't kid yourself. A lot of people thought that Cliff Kingsbury was a bad hire in Arizona. And you know what? He's not doing that bad of a job. It doesn't hurt to have Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins on your team, and Larry Fitzgerald isn't quite ready to surrender yet either. So, but yeah, I don't know. The Cardinals are a dark horse team. Let's talk about the Monday night affair, though. Rams 24-10. To me, Aaron Donald against Khalil Mack is considered a defensive battle. Nick Foles obviously didn't perform as well. And Jared Goff, who will be in South Florida over the weekend. What are your impressions of the Monday night game?
Yeah, I thought that I thought the Rams defense played really well. I was a little surprised. I shouldn't say surprised, but a little bit with some of the play calling Chicago did. I know Nick Foles isn't happy with the way things are going, but Nick Foles is another guy that he's kind of streaky, and I didn't think he played exceptionally well the other night. The Bears' offense to me looked like the same as it has. They've been struggling. That defense of theirs I really like. But, I thought Goff and the Rams did what they needed to do. I thought they pretty much owned that game from start to finish. I always had that feeling that the Rams were going to pull that one out. I never got that feeling that the Bears were going to beat them.
Well, you're right, obviously. So, I mean, I don't know. When I think of the Bears, I think of the monsters of Midway, and living in Detroit, I've dealt with that Kool-Aid for a long time. So, all right, you got the standings out. You ready to talk some football games this week?
Yeah, let's talk.
All right, well, the Indianapolis Colts visit Detroit to take on the Lucky Lions. Can you imagine that? I believe Indianapolis, what's their record?
Indianapolis is 4-2 this year.
4-2, and the Lions are 3-3. Who'd have thunk that? So,
and the Lions are 0-2 at home.
Yeah, I know. That's even when Parker and I were having a field day with the Lions road losing streaks, exceeding 24 games in a row. Who would have thought in this bizarre 2020 year that all their wins would be on the road? But they have a 3-game winning streak on the road.
Yeah.
And now they get the 4. But anyways, the Lions and the Colts. How do you size this one up?
I think it's going to be a close game, but I think the Lions are due for a big win at home. I like them in this game, and I know a lot of people love that Indy defense. I do as well. But I just got that feeling that the Lions are going to go on a little bit of a run here. Kenny Golladay, obviously, he's having a big year. I like my man Hawkinson, Matthew Stafford. I just have the feeling they're going to win one at home. They're going to probably that much maligned Detroit defense is going to pick off Phillip Rivers a couple of times.
Well, a lot of teams are, so give me a score, Steve.
I'm going to go 31-27.
Well, you're giving them a lot of points, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll stay in the low 20s again. I don't trust the Lions enough. I'll give them a 24-17 win.
Well, there you go.
Well, Jonathan Taylor could be the X factor though for the Colts. The running,
Hmm.
the Lions don't handle good running backs well, and Jonathan Taylor may not be playing the Michigan Wolverines, and again, Wisconsin not playing anybody. So he played against the Wolverines, he played well, but he is playing against the Lions and Matt Patricia, but 24-17 in favor of the Lions. All right, got the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens records. What do we have there, my friend?
That's going to be a that's going to be a one of those slugfests, don't you think?
Always
Um,
those two teams. So what do we got record wise?
yeah, the Steelers 6-0, Ravens 5-1.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, the Steelers are undefeated on the road, so Baltimore's favored by 3.5 points. I think that's a little surprising. I mean, we know that what kind of team they are, but they haven't really shown that much this year. I think that will change this week. I think Baltimore is going to pull this one out. I think the Steelers are going to fall from the unbeaten ranks. I think this is going to be a really tough football game. But I like Lamar Jackson in this one. Pull out a close win. I'm going to say 24-20, 21. 24-20.
I'm going to disagree with you just for the sake of our broadcast next week. So, although we're going to be doing differently next week, just so you let everybody preview, Mel Farr Jr. Has been invited and is expected to join the broadcast. So, who knows whether we'll be talking many games. I know Steve's looking forward to getting to know him, but I'll give Pittsburgh a 24-21 win just for the sake of differing. That way we don't have to agree on all of them. But you know what? I like the Steelers. They're looking pretty good.
They are.
Can play well. And Ben Roethlisberger continues to have a pretty good comeback here. Eric Ebron seems to be doing quite well for the Steelers, too. So I'll give it to Steeltown, 24-21. All right, well, who would have thought the New England Patriots are on their heels, but they're doing it up. But they get to go to Western New York, and they take on the Buffalo Bills. What's going on up there? The Patriots, I believe, are what, 2-4, and I believe Buffalo's what, 4-2. Is that correct?
5-2.
5-2. Okay.
Yeah, they've played one more game, so the
Okay.
Bills are 5-2. They're 2 games up in the loss column, and this is a really big game for the Patriots because if they fall 3 games behind Buffalo, then any hope they have of, winning their 12th division in a division title in a row is out the window at this point. They're reeling right now, but the passing game is, as we talked about, is awful. But you know what? The weather is supposed to be like in Buffalo this weekend. They're calling for 45-mile-an-hour winds during the game. They're calling for wind, 50-degree temperatures, rain, and 45-mile-an-hour winds. So I don't think either team's going to be throwing the ball a whole heck of a lot in this one.
No.
So with that kind of wind, it's going to be difficult. You're going to have to rely on the running game. I think that's going to tighten the score quite a bit.
Right.
I'm almost tempted to take the Patriots in this one because I just have the feeling that Belichick's going to have them bounce back, especially with the weather being the way it is, and with the possibility of Newton carrying the ball more. But I'm going to stick with Buffalo. My first instincts were to go with Buffalo in this. I thought the Bills were going to win rather easily, but now because of that weather, I mean, that's going to be hard to throw the ball with that kind of wind gust, right. 45 to 50 miles an hour. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and I think it's going to be a tight one. I'm going to go 17-14.
I was thinking 17-13, so you're right there. And the only reason I say 13 is you got a couple field goals in the mix, along with a 7-pointer. Yeah, I'm going Buffalo all the way. Right now, the Patriots are reeling, and I have a feeling that if Cam Newton doesn't get it figured out quick, that idea of going with Jarrett Stidham this year maybe comes sooner than later to give him the reps. And I think Cam knows that his job is in jeopardy if he can't get right the ship. So with that said, okay, let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders and Cleveland Browns. This is the Browns had a tough contest against upstart Cincinnati team, but the Raiders and the Browns, and this one's in Cleveland.
Yeah, the Browns are 5-2, 3-0 at home, and the Raiders are 3-3, but they have a winning record on the road this year. And again, they're calling for 51 degrees, rainy there in Cleveland. I don't know about. Yeah, I mean, Cleveland is another one of those teams. They can look really, really good at times, and then there's others where they're not impressive. And I just have that feeling that the Raiders might steal one in Cleveland. Um, I don't know. Derek Carr he's another one of those streaky kind of guys, and I don't know. I'm just having my first instinct was Cleveland's going to win this game and go on a little bit of a run themselves. But the more I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of talking myself out of that. I'm thinking the Raiders pull this one off.
Okay.
I think 27-24.
Yeah, Odell Beckham is out for the season and for the foreseeable future. What are your thoughts about the injury that Odell sustained?
Yeah, and I liked the response when Baker Mayfield was asked about that, or he was asked, "Oh, is this offense better without OBJ?" And I like the way he responded to that. He got big kudos in my book because he was like, "We're talking about a man's life here, basically." I don't want to paraphrase it too much. I don't remember his exact words, but I like the way he answered that, and he got a lot of points in my book for that one. Yeah, I think that's significant for them. I think he's a tremendous football player. They never really kind of figured out a way to use him, but having him on the field, the other team always has to be aware of him.
Yeah, I like the Raiders 26-21. I know that Baker Mayfield has shown a lot of signs of maturity, though, as an individual, more so. And I think that Kevin Stefanski and they reeled his personality in where he realizes that if he doesn't figure it out, he may be replaced. And I really do hope it works out for Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. I really do. But don't discount Henry Ruggs.
Nope.
Don't.
I love that guy when he was down in Alabama.
Yeah.
I watched him play down there, and he's just electric with the ball in his hands. And I think as the season goes on, they're going to find more ways to put the ball in his hands and get him in space.
Well, I'll go back to what I said earlier. You're talking about teams that didn't have a preseason where these reps would have been their OTAs, and I think the rookies are the ones that suffered the most because they didn't have a chance to get the reps that the veterans had. But I'll reiterate my prediction: 26-21 with the Raiders. They say that Baker Mayfield's percentage is higher without Beckham in there, and he goes with other targets. Perhaps that's the case, but I still don't like the idea when you have an impact player that it can't hurt to some degree anyways, because now the guys that you can get in there are being dependent upon rather than being a luxury, and I think that's the one intangible that most people have to understand. So right up the road here from you, 75 South, you got the LA Rams, Jared Goff taking on Tua Tagovailoa, making his debut at Joe Robbie Stadium. I tell you what, I'm getting the transcripts from Brian Flores and everybody in Twitter land, Facebook land. They're all excited about Tua. Now we'll find out what Tua's made of. So you got Goff against Tua. Who do you got?
I like the Rams in this one. I mean, I watched that defense on Monday night. They're really good, and for your first game, you're facing a defense that's seemingly finding its way. I think it's going to be tough for him in his first game. I mean, as first start, I should say. He played last week or 2 weeks ago, but I still find it a little curious that they decided to go with Tua at this time.
Yeah.
But I like the Rams in this one. I think that Jared Goff will have a good, solid day.
Well, record-wise?
The Rams are 5-2. The Dolphins 3-3. They're calling for, I think sunny and 85 there in Miami. So it should be a beautiful day to watch a football game down there. But yeah, I think the Rams. I think they'll win this one, 24-10.
I don't know why I'm going to predict the Dolphins because I probably am really losing it in my old age. But I don't know. There's a feel when you bring a quarterback in here with so much hype where they talk about tanking for Tua, and his mobility is what they're looking for. You know what? I'm going to go with the Dolphins anyhow. I don't know why I'm doing it. And if I'm wrong next week, I'll just take it on the chin and eat humble pie. Okay. But I got to ride the wave of the local area anyhow. And I'm going to give Miami a 24-17 win.
Good. That's good.
All right. We got New Orleans and Chicago.
Yeah, that game's in Chicago. The Bears are 5-2. The Saints are 4-2. New Orleans is favored by 4. There's still a lot of talk that Michael Thomas is on the trading block. But as long as Drew Brees has Alvin Kamara, and I know that Bears defense is really good, I like the Saints in this one. I do. I just think they're going to go up in Chicago. And I know Drew Brees isn't as good out of doors, especially when the weather starts getting bad. And I think they're calling for low 40s up there in Chicago. So, a little taste of winter up there. I just like Alvin Kamara in this one to help the Saints pull out a game. I'm looking at about 23-14 in this one.
You know what? I'm going with the Bears. Have you ever been to Soldier Field, by the way?
I've never been there, no.
Well, I have. And I know it gets cold and it gets windy. And I was at the old one before they built a shell around it. Let me tell you, when the wind rolls into Lake Michigan, Steve, you know what? If you had a beard, you would it would be freezing. You have icicles in your beard. I remember many times years ago when I was covering the team over Christmas time, I would wear hiking boots and 3 or 4 pairs of socks and thermal underwear up there. So I don't know. For some reason, I think the Bears are going to figure it out. I don't know why, but I think they're going to win it 24-16. I really do. Mm-hmm. And you're the one who stated my argument for me. Drew Brees outside, and let alone it's one thing to be outside, it's another to be at Soldier Field. So you got 2 things going. So you convinced me to go the Bears route because of what you just said. 24-16 Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and Dick Butkus isn't walking through that door, but Khalil Mack will run over Drew Brees like a Mack truck. So go figure.
Yeah, I love Dick Butkus. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, my 2 favorite football players were Dick Butkus and Ray Nitschke.
Pretty good players, that's for sure. So, and next week we'll definitely be able to talk a bit more of a flair for the past. So, all right, so you got New Orleans, I got Chicago, and we're going to take the 49ers out to Starbucks territory or coffee country in Seattle. Jimmy Garoppolo against
Russell Wilson.
All right, what do we got record-wise?
49ers are 4-3. The Seahawks are 5-1.
49ers.
Seahawks. Yeah, the Seahawks. Yeah, Seahawks are 3-0 at home. 49ers are 3-0 away from home.
Wow, interesting, really.
And the 49ers are, they're still missing a ton of people.
Yeah, they are.
They're really, really beat up. I think Russell Wilson's going to have a big game, but again, that Seattle defense isn't great. And I just have the feeling that 49ers are starting to put it together. I'm taking them in another really close game, 31-30.
I'm going to go back to Russell Wilson, think he's going to rebound and win. No, you may not have the 12-man, but they still have the place anyhow. So I'll take the same score, but the other way with the Seahawks. All right, Sunday night, Dallas against Philadelphia. You know what? We don't know. Let's see. Is this an Abbott Costello? Remember them? Who's on?
Yeah.
second. Well, we know who's going to be a quarterback, but at least we'll have until Sunday night to see whether Dalton can get through the concussion protocols. But the Dallas Cowboys are an outright mess. And I think Philadelphia is going to take control over this division. I really do.
Yeah, 2-4-1 Eagles are in first place against 2-5 Dallas, who's 0-3 on the road. I think Philly's going to blow them out.
Yeah.
I mean, even if Andy Dalton comes back, he was having a rough time of it last week. I think he was only 9 of 19. But I mean, if he's out, I think this is going to get downright ugly, and the Eagles will win big. I'm looking at about 34-7 on this one.
I've actually got the Eagles 38-10.
I think we're pretty close there.
I think so too. I mean, and ironically, the tie might end up getting the Eagles the division title because it's a half a loss that they're not going to have. So, but I think Philadelphia could get hot in a division that nobody seems to want. I mean, I know Washington plays well, is one thing, but I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid for Washington. I think that Doug Peterson and they get it figured out in Philadelphia. Who knows whether they get in with a sub-500 record or not, but I don't know. I think Philadelphia is going to blow them out, and it'll be a Sunday night snoozer, which is okay with me. I'm probably setting the record for least amount of sleep all week anyways, and who the heck really, frankly, cares?
Well, maybe at halftime I'll go to bed and get some rest.
Yeah, that's okay, and I'll see how much sleep I can get over the weekend. But, well, that's what we've got to work with over the weekend. I don't know how much we're going to critique ourselves next week since we're going to be bringing in special guests from time to time on the Sports Exchange. As you know, my name is Scott Morganoff, Motor City Madmouth. Glad to have my football and well-rounded co-host Steve Balestrieri on the broadcast. We do it every week, whether it's on the Sports Exchange and other broadcasts that Steve and I will be working on, be the real and the rare. That'll probably kick off after the first of the year. I don't know, unless we decide to do another one here and there. We'll see. I don't know. Everything's subject for discussion depending on the subject matter. Any closing thoughts about tonight's broadcast, Steve?
Always a blast talking football with you, and I'm looking forward to a slate of really good games this weekend. And who knows, we might be getting together around Veterans Day, celebrating the America's vets and eating some cheese curds.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Right now, I feel like there's a very strong possibility of us doing that on Veterans Day. We're going to certainly do our best if you're available to make the track around down I-75 to get there. Naples is a walk in the park for me to take a drive, so I'm ready to take that drive. Feel like a caged lion in my cave, but that's okay. I know we'll be talking over the weekend or this weekend or next weekend about how we're going to even bring this broadcast to more people. So those are things that Steve Balestrieri and I are working on as well. So Steve, why don't you go out there and let everybody know give them the COVID-19 message for us, please.
Yeah, with this COVID-19, I mean, it's still out there. It's taken everybody by storm. People are still getting sick. In fact, one of my closest friends in the military that I served with my whole time, I just found out he's been down with the COVID and he's had double pneumonia. So he's on the mend, though. He's starting to get better. Folks, wear the mask. I know everyone hates the damn mask, and I do too. Raise your hand. But, you know, no one likes wearing the darn thing. But, you know, wear your mask. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. And let's get through this so we can get back to somewhat normal next year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. I couldn't have said it better. That's why I make people like you defer it, because I figure you'll do better than me anyways. The one thing that I can keep it simple, stupid folks, is vote. Vote now, vote early, and vote next week, because I have a feeling that there could be a change of leadership. We never know. Election day, we'll make the determination. I already got it out of the way, then did watch 60 Minutes on Sunday night. CBS did a great job with both candidates, very educational. So it's a very important decision for everybody, and don't take this election for granted. I think it's the most important election that we've ever had. So, all right, Steve, why don't you let everybody know how they can go ahead and get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at SteveB7SFG. I write for PatsFans.com. We also do a podcast up there called Patriots 4th and 2. And we'll be doing one on Friday, I believe. We're going to do a video like we do here. And we'll be talking about the upcoming Buffalo Bills game. I also write for SoftRep.com covering military matters and, national security stuff. So that keeps me pretty well grounded with what's going on in the world.
Yeah, outside of the fact that you get to do it all in Southwest Florida with all the beautiful weather that you have. My goodness. Who am I to say anything? I'm in Southeast Florida and I love it. I don't think I could ever move back north.
No. Talked to my brother up in the Boston area last week, and he was telling me they're expecting snow this weekend. And I said, yeah, winter's hit down here in South Florida. Yeah. And he's like, is it cold there? And I said, my pool went under 80 degrees for the first time.
Yeah, I feel sorry for you. Right.
He didn't think that was too funny.
Yeah, well,
but actually it's back up to 82 because we've had some nice hot sunny weather the last few days, so the pool's back up to 82.
What a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Just like those cheese curds and the butter burger we're gonna have over at Culver's soon enough. So, all right. In terms of trying to follow us here, you can follow us. This is, once again, you're listening and watching to the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morganroth, along with Steve Balestrieri. We do this every week. We're going to be doing it probably more often on different broadcasts. But you can follow us on Twitter at Tribune South. And what made Twitter such a great thing is Steve and I got together on Twitter. Of course, now we're connected on different social medias. But once again, I'll reiterate, at Tribune South. You follow us over there. Facebook and Instagram, South Florida Tribune gets it done. YouTube channel for what you're watching this broadcast on the YouTube channel, South Florida Tribune. Please follow it, subscribe. I'll give you 6 reasons why you should. The Sports Exchange is on there, no limits, 108 Stitches baseball talk, real and the rare, fantasy football, South Florida Tribune podcast. We have a broadcast for everybody out there. Our website's www.southfloridatribune.com. You'll find the Motor City Monitor on there. We have a lot of coverage from the Metro Detroit area and southeastern Michigan area, where I am from, working on a business deal to get in both areas. And I enjoy working with my hometown. We also have our media distribution partners send us content. We have our broadcasts on there, as well as our columnists contribute as well. So it's a very well-rounded site. We have weather. We have news on there as well. You can email me at southfloridatribune@gmail.com, and LinkedIn, Scott Morganroth. You can connect with me there. If you want to hear the audio version of the broadcast, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. So you can get us a lot of different ways. So any closing thoughts, Steve? What do you got lined up for this weekend?
Just relaxing, taking it easy. We have family in from out of town, so we're going to hang out, cook some food outside, eat on the grill, and just relax, watch some football, not doing much of anything.
Yeah, and for those people that thought I talked too fast on the audio version, I'll say it again: Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. As far as what my activities will be over the weekend, actually, Florida Atlantic hosts University of Texas at San Antonio out at FAU Stadium, Halloween night, whether it's trick or treat. Who knows whether you'll have a real mask on or a costume, but make sure you play it safe on Halloween nonetheless. On Sunday, outside of watching some football, hopefully you and I, Steve, will have some time on the phone to go ahead and build our ability to bring the show to others. If not, we'll do it sooner or later. And, of course, I have a couple beautiful TVs that we'll get them hooked up as well, and whatever else I need to do. But meanwhile, Steve, we'll compare our notes, and we'll see what we're going to bring to the table next week. But right now, as it stands, Mel Farr Jr. is on the docket. We're going to talk football a lot of different ways. And if anything to be Mel, we'll be doing it the other way. But I feel certain that Mel will be joining us. And again, it's the first time we'll have a third wheel on the broadcast. So meanwhile, any closing thoughts, Steve?
Nope. Let's just end it here and look forward to a great weekend. I'm looking forward to talking with Mel next week.
Yeah, well, you know what? We will end it here. But meanwhile, I want to thank you for joining us here, Scott Morganroth and Steve Balestrieri. And we look forward to doing it again and again and again. Take care and have a great weekend, folks. And once again, be safe. Follow the General Steve. Take care, folks. Good night.